Midnight in Rome. Under hotel awnings dripping with rain, Sarah Reed, a travel journalist known for uncovering art scandals, waves for a taxi. She slides into a waiting black sedan, purse clutched, heels clicking on leather seats. "The airport, please," she tells the man behind the wheel. He doesn't answer. The engine hums, the city fades, and when the car stops, automatic gates seal them inside a walled villa lit by thunder. The rain looked permanent, like a rumor the sky refused to drop. Rome after midnight was supposed to sleep. Instead, the boulevard outside the Palazzo Rosate glimmered with headlights and lies. Sarah Reed pulled the shawl closer to her shoulders, her press badge hidden, the weight of her latest article tugging at her pulse. The gilded art gala she just left had turned into a whispered war after she exposed 3 forged Caravaggios donated by a politician with suspicious friends. Every instinct screamed to leave the city before the sun found her name on the morning news. A line of black cars idled at the curb, engines breathing through the mist. She spotted one with its light on and hurried toward it, heels splashing. "Taxi!" she called in uncertain Italian. The man behind the wheel didn't answer. He only nodded once, the gesture curt. The car's interior smelled of leather and smoke. Expensive, anonymous. She slid inside, clutching her overnight bag. "Fiumicino Airport, please," she said. The door locks clicked. Automatically. Sarah frowned, glancing at the driver's reflection in the mirror. Shaved jaw, dark hair trimmed with military precision, eyes concealed behind droplets on the glass partition. The car eased away from the curb, smooth, too smooth. It took her 10 minutes to realize they weren't heading toward the highway. "Excuse me," she said, leaning forward. "This isn't the airport road." Still no answer. Only the hum of the engine and the soft rhythm of wipers. "Did you hear me?" she pressed. "The airport." The driver finally spoke, voice low, Italian-accented English. "I heard you." "Then what?" "Phone," he said simply, palm raised. "What about it?" "Off." Something in his tone froze her. Not angry, clinical. Like an order learned young and obeyed by reflex. When she didn't move fast enough, he added, "Please." Hesitation wavered, then she switched it off. Outside, the city thinned. Streetlights gave way to trees. White stone walls began to rise at the road's edge. She swallowed. "Look, if this is some sort of joke." "No joke," he said. "And don't be afraid. You'll understand soon." Fear cracked through her composure anyway. She searched the door handle, child locks engaged. The car slowed before wrought iron gates taller than a 2-story house. A camera above them tracked the sedan and admitted them with a mechanical groan. Ahead stretched a gravel drive lined with cypress trees. At the end, floodlights framed a villa big enough to have its own gravity. She turned toward him. "This isn't my hotel, and I'm getting out." He finally faced her. His eyes were slate gray, unflinching. "Please, signora. Step out carefully." Before she could reply, the passenger door opened from outside. 2 men in tailored black coats stood beneath umbrellas, their movements precise and synchronized, the kind that come from years of training, not courtesy. "Who is she?" one asked in Italian. "She thought I was her driver," the man said. "I thought she was a guest. Matteo will want to see her." Her stomach dropped at the name. Everyone who worked in journalism knew Matteo Vieri, a collector, philanthropist, and depending on which headline you read, the invisible hand behind half of Rome's underground art trade. "What do you mean, see me? I've done nothing wrong." They didn't answer. One took her bag. The other gestured toward the villa's entrance where carved oak doors waited under a balcony of stone lions. Inside was all marble and menace. Frescoed ceilings, mirrors, a chandelier that could bankrupt countries. Gold light poured over men in black suits, standing at intervals like original statues. At the foot of the grand staircase stood their master, Matteo Vieri, elegant, silver watch glinting, smile almost friendly. "Who brings a journalist to my door at midnight?" he asked, the warmth in his voice offset by eyes that measured her like currency. The driver, her driver, bowed his head slightly. "Mistake, signore. I stopped where instructed." She entered before I could leave. Matteo studied her expression. "And you didn't recognize her face from television?" Television. Sarah's last interview had aired 2 days ago. Her exposé already lighting fires. Her limbs went light. I thought he was a taxi," she stammered, glaring at the man who'd brought her. "You never said anything." He kept his gaze forward, impassive. Matteo laughed softly. "Nico, you've kidnapped a journalist. Very poor form." "My apologies," Nico said. "Apologies." Matteo approached, his Italian vowels curling around English words. "Do you know what she has cost me? €500,000 for a painting now smoldering in an evidence locker." He reached out, brushed a raindrop from the sleeve of Sarah's coat, the gesture too intimate, rehearsed. "And you, Miss Reed, cost yourself a peaceful night." "I didn't mean." "Intentions are overrated." He straightened. "Keep her somewhere comfortable but invisible. Until morning she is our guest." Her heart hammered. "Guest?" "Guests may leave," Matteo said pleasantly, "after I decide if they should." He turned away, the guards moved in. Nico motioned for her to follow one corridor lined with dark portraits. When the doors closed behind them, she finally hissed, "You're letting him imprison me?" Nico answered without looking at her. "If you want to stay alive, you'll do exactly what I ask." They reached a smaller room, a glass conservatory filled with night-blooming flowers, a faint smell of rain even indoors. She spun on him. "Who are you really?" He hesitated, eyes softening just a fraction. "Someone who drives when ordered." Lightning flashed outside, momentarily illuminating a sketchbook on the table behind him. Charcoal drawings of faces, hands, cathedral arches. She saw talent there, humanity that didn't fit the cold soldier she'd met in the car. When she looked up again, he was closer than before. "You shouldn't have gotten in that car," he said quietly. "You shouldn't have locked the doors." One corner of his mouth lifted. "Point taken." He stepped back, reached for the door handle, then paused. "Stay here, Sarah. Whatever you hear tonight, stay quiet and wait for morning." The lock turned from the outside. Alone among the orchids and thunder, she pressed her hand to the glass. Below in the courtyard, Matteo's men were moving crates, the kind used for transporting art. And in the reflection she caught a glimpse of Nico looking up, rain streaking his face before he disappeared into the shadows. She had boarded the wrong car, and stepped straight into her story's sequel. Morning entered the villa the way thieves enter churches, quietly, with guilt and a glint of gold. A maid wordlessly placed a tray inside the conservatory. Espresso, fruit, untouched pastries. The lock clicked again, and Sarah was alone. A new day, same prison. Somewhere beyond the painted glass, men's voices rose and fell in Italian. Tones of conversation, not argument, which somehow unnerved her more. She hadn't slept. Rainwater streaked the panes, distorting the cypress trees outside. Nico's warning replayed in her head. Stay quiet and wait for morning. Morning had arrived. And so had her questions. When the door opened, it wasn't Matteo but Nico. He looked like he hadn't rested either, shirt sleeves rolled, tie gone, the disciplined calm of a man who wakes to danger instead of coffee. "Eat," he said simply. "I'm not hungry," she replied. "Then pretend. He'll notice." He. Matteo. Nico leaned against a column, studying her untouched breakfast. He keeps score. Even appetite can be weaponized with him. Sarah forced herself to sip the espresso. Is this sympathy or strategy? Both. She set the cup down, meeting his gaze. Why am I really here, Nico? You already know, he said. Your article humiliated him. The painting you exposed wasn't a forgery. It was a message. Someone sold him out, and he thinks you were the courier. Courier for what? Facts. For betrayal, Nico said quietly. He walked toward the window, hands in pockets. A faint limp ghosted his stride. She noticed it now that he wasn't hiding behind formality. He stood. You could have let me go last night. I tried. The gates closed before I could turn around. Cameras everywhere. So kidnap me, but call it logistics. Her sarcasm cracked against the glass. You do this often. He looked over his shoulder. To reporters. Just this once. Before she could answer, Matteo's voice cut through, the smooth silk of power descending the hallway. The door swung open, and the boss entered flanked by two men. Morning light caught a gold cufflink shaped like a lion's head. Miss Reed, he greeted, all courtesy and venom. Your work travels faster than gossip. Bravo. I expose art theft, Mr. Vieri. That shouldn't offend honest collectors. Then you'd agree there are very few honest collectors, he said. Which makes your profession dangerous. He circled the table slowly. Tell me something. These files you published, did you keep copies? I'm a journalist, she said evenly. So yes. His smile didn't touch his eyes. And copies can be retrieved. He nodded to the guards. Nico will take you upstairs to the study. We'll continue our discussion privately. When they left the conservatory, Sarah hissed. Discussion or interrogation? Both, Nico said. Upstairs, Matteo's study was half library, half museum. Oil portraits, bookcases, the smell of tobacco over ancient wood. Matteo motioned for her to sit, then gestured to an ornate canvas draped with a cloth. He pulled it free. Beneath was one of the forgeries from her article, the same brushstrokes she'd compared publicly to a student's imitation. You see, he said. You called this fake on national television. Yet the real one was stolen years ago. Which means the copy in that museum was mine. Sarah's pulse quickened. Then you wanted your forgery discovered. Exactly. A smokescreen for moving the real cargo. Cargo. Matteo chuckled. You have such a clean word for crime. He turned away. Still, you've forced me to accelerate our schedule. He snapped his fingers at Nico. Dispose of the journalist once the shipment leaves tonight. Sarah froze. You're kidding. No, signorina. Matteo's tone softened, which made it worse. But you have my gratitude for your unintentional service to art. He dismissed them with a gesture. Nico's jaw tightened as he guided her out. The corridor felt longer than before. Are you just going to kill me because he told you to? She asked under her breath. He didn't answer until they reached the end of the hall. Not if I can help it. He steered her down a side staircase into a storage wing lined with crates. These, he said, tapping one, hold the forgeries being shipped as decoys. The originals already left the country 2 nights ago. Your article made them valuable again. So he used my investigation. Yes. He turned exposure into camouflage. And now I'm what? Collateral damage. If you stay. Her heart thudded. You're helping me escape. I'm not helping, he said. I'm correcting my mistake. Night crept back by the time he finalized the plan. They stood in the same conservatory, moonlight silvering the orchids. He handed her a small phone. When you reach the main road, call this number. A friend will drive you to the embassy. Sarah stared at him. Matteo will kill you. He shrugged one shoulder. He's been trying to for years. You're risking your life for a stranger. Nico's smile was tired. I used to be an artist. I believed beauty could redeem anything. Then I learned redemption only comes in moments like this. A door slammed somewhere below. Matteo's voice sharp, shouting orders. Nico cursed softly. He knows. Go! They sprinted through narrow passageways, footsteps echoing over marble. Sarah clutched the phone as if it were oxygen. An alarm bell shrieked. Ancient, mechanical, horrifyingly loud. They reached a side exit opening onto the loading bay. Trucks idled, floodlights bleaching everything pale. Crates stamped fragile filled the space. Nico pulled her behind one. Change of route, he said. Into the truck with the red seal. Hide until it stops. Don't move until daylight. What about you? I'll draw them off. Before she could protest, he caught her face between his hands. Gentle, grounding. Whatever you see or write next, forget my name. Then he was gone, disappearing into the labyrinth of light and shouting men, leaving only gunfire to mark his direction. Sarah climbed into the truck, heart in her throat, and pulled the crate door shut. Inside the darkness smelled of paint, wood, and fear. Somewhere above the chaos, thunder rolled again, echoing the night she'd first stepped into his car. The truck jolted forward, tires biting wet gravel. Sarah clung to the crate rail as the villa's sirens wailed in the distance, each echo a pulse of fear stretching thinner and thinner until only the rumble of the engine remained. Every turn felt like a countdown. She could smell linseed oil and varnish, the scent of stolen masterpieces hidden among the wooden boxes. In her jacket pocket, the phone Nico had given her vibrated once and went dark. A single text message before the signal died. Trust the art. It didn't make sense, but she held the words like a compass. After an hour, the truck eased to a stop. No shouts, no escort, just city noise outside the metal walls. Horns, voices, the clang of gates. Sarah pushed open the crate door and dropped into a dim warehouse stacked with painting frames awaiting shipment. A side window showed the river glinting under dawn. She dialed the number Nico had programmed. A click, then a woman's voice. You're safe. Walk 20 paces east. Green Vespa, helmet under the seat. Go. The line disconnected. Outside, mist rolled off the Tiber. She found the scooter precisely where described and drove until the blinking signal on her GPS showed the American embassy ahead. She didn't stop to breathe until guards surrounded her in pale blue uniforms instead of black. 2 days later, headlines around the world screamed Rome raid foils global art trade scheme. Interpol agents had stormed Vieri's estate at sunrise, responding to an anonymous leak containing logistics, shipping manifests, and a time-locked confession video. The source was never identified. Sarah watched the coverage from her hotel balcony, exhaustion and disbelief sharing space in her lungs. Every question she asked herself landed on one she couldn't answer. Was Nico alive? When the knock came at her door, she froze. A courier, polite, leaving a package no larger than a book. No note. Only a Roman return address written in charcoal. Inside was a canvas. Small, rough, unfinished. A woman in a red dress beneath a street lamp, rain cascading like static around her. The brushwork was urgent, alive. The portrait so close to her own reflection it stole her breath. At the bottom, a single initial, N. Attached to the back, a folded letter. The villa fell while you were still on the road. I walked out with the others under police escort. Matteo's gone. Some debts have finally closed. You said writers chase truth. Artists chase forgiveness. If we meet again, maybe we'll trade work. She ran her fingers over the wet traces of ink, imagining him somewhere across the city, trying to make himself small in a world still hungry for his blood. Weeks passed. The exposé Sarah published turned into her career's defining piece, Forged by Fire, Inside the Hidden Art of Power. Commentators praised its depth, its humanity, the way it balanced devastation with the possibility of redemption. They didn't know half of it. At readings, people asked how she found the courage to go back. She always answered the same way. Sometimes survival looks like running. But sometimes it looks like turning the page. Each night she'd return to her apartment. The painting hung opposite her desk. When rain hit the windows, the shadows of the brushstrokes almost shifted, as if the man who painted them were still finishing her outline. One evening, a brown envelope slid under her door. No name this time, only an address on the back of a business card. Galleria di Luce. Opening exhibition. New works by Nico Rossi. Her heart found a rhythm it hadn't dared keep. She imagined the glass roof of the small gallery, the same city now free of its oldest ghost, and a man who still drew with ash on his fingers. She didn't know if she would go. But as lightning flashed over rooftops and rain began again, Sarah reached for her coat. Freedom, she realized, wasn't about staying gone. It was about deciding what deserved to be returned to.